All right, guys, welcome back. So last week we went through our introduction to Illustrator. We learned how to customize our menu options. We learned how to use the line tool. We learned how to use alignment tools. We learned how to color our strokes and fill our shapes with color. But today we're going to step away from that and go to our next section, which is going to cover two things. Our first thing is we're going to learn about positive and negative space, and we're going to do that by learning how to use the pen tool. So from there, let's get started. So we're on our welcome screen here. We're going to go to New File, and you'll see our Page Options window open up. I want us to do this project in 8.5 by 11. We're going to do this in a landscape orientation, and we're going to use CMYK for our color. So we have 8.5 by 11, landscape, CMYK, create. All right, there's our 8.5 by 11 page. So the first thing I want to do is make some guides. And you guys have seen me do this several times, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. You know how I make my guides. It's just my preference. You can do these with the rulers if you want. I'm actually going to bring up my rulers with my Command R shortcut, and from there I'm going to deselect and I'm going to make some guides here. These are 1-inch guides, and that's what I want us to use for this project. Make these little guys right here. Alright, now this guy can go bye-bye. Alright guys, from there I want to make sure that my guides are locked if they aren't already, which they are, and I showed you how to unlock and lock your guides right here. So my guides are locked, and what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a project that I'm calling the maze, and we're going to be doing that with the pen tool. The first thing we're going to do is let's make sure we have no fill color selected. So you can do that by crossing that fill color out right there. And you'll also see that down here that there's no fill, and we have a black stroke, and we have our black stroke set at 1 point. We're going to be using our pen tool to make our maze, and that's located right here. Don't get it confused with the curvature tool. It's another tool, but we're not going to be doing that right now in this tutorial. So just make sure this top one is selected, and you'll see it pop up as called the pen tool. So once we have our pen tool selected, I just want to show you really fast how the pen tool works. So when you see the icon come up that you're on the pen tool, you just go to any point on the canvas. This is just an example. I'm just going to click right there at that point, and you'll see when you start moving your mouse around, you'll see this line, and that's how we will draw our shapes with our pen tool. And that's just simply by clicking and moving to our next point. And you'll see when you go back to your starting point and connect and click that last point and go to my select tool, that becomes a shape on its own, and this can be filled with a color. So that's how the pen tool works in basic form. Okay guys, so now let's start making our maze, and to do this we're going to go over here and we're going to select our pen tool, and we're going to make sure that there is no fill and a black stroke, and we're at 1 point in our weight for our strokes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this point right here. I'm just picking anywhere I feel like. It doesn't have to be in any certain point, but I'm going to start, say, over here. And to begin with, we're going to use our guides and our snap points for our guides, because this kind of is going to frame our maze a little bit so it looks nice and clean around our edges. But from here, we can start doing this however we want, and this is where I want you guys to finally start having some fun being creative and drawing. So these don't have to be at any angles or anything, just however you want them to be. But you're going to see I'm going to go up here, and I'm just going to start working my way back into the center with this spiral. So I'm going to do these at different angles, however I feel like I wouldn't get them too tight because we're going to work our way back out. So make these first lines kind of further apart from each other. And again, you can make these in any angle that you see fit that you want to make. And so I'm just kind of going in and making these lines. Like I said, don't get too tight with them, guys. I'm just working my way back in the middle, just clicking as I go. And so right there, I'm going to say, okay, that's going to be my final point to my center. So from there, I'm just going to start working my way back out. So you're going to just start back tracing your steps. And again, you can see how I'm making these shapes really different, and just putting in these different angles, it just gives it some personality. Kind of reminds me of like a mid-century 1950s or 60s piece of artwork. So you can see that I'm staying in between my lines, tracing my way back out. I don't want to overlap anything. I want to make sure to get back out of my maze. I'm staying within the lines, but I'm also trying to create some cool angles as I come back out. And there we go, make that one like that. And then we're back at our first point right here. And when you click that, that's going to close this shape. And if you remember, we can use our direct selection tool to adjust any of these nodes that we've made. So right here I see, well, I kind of want this to kind of end more over here in this corner. And so I'm pulling it back over. So for now, I'm going back to my selection tool. I want to select the shape we made, and you can see it's just lines now. And if you remember, we can reverse that here to fill this with black, like so. And you can also do that up here. Remember, you can change that to any color you want, but let's just leave this for black for now, because this is what shows us what positive and negative space is. And just looking at this, I'm going to go back and adjust this with my direct selection tool, because I feel like I want this to kind of fill up the frame a little bit more like that. So again, that's what that direct selection tool does. It lets you adjust any of these points. So now you see a great representation of positive and negative space, the black being our positive space and the white being our negative space. And I can show you an example of this. And by the way, I did this all on one layer, guys. I'm not worried about our layers. And actually, I just noticed here that I got to go back in, and I did not click on that point right there. So I'm using my direct selection tool to get that correct. See, guys, I didn't zoom in there. I was doing it far away from the page, and that kind of helps us really see where we're at. So I've got my edges how I want them now around my guide. Sorry about that. So again, yes, this is a great representation of positive and negative space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rectangle here, and I want to show you guys how that works. So I'm just going to kind of mix me a color here. I'm going to make maybe like a rusty orange color, something like that. And if you remember, also we can select this object and we can change the arrangement of it. So I'm going to send this to the back under Object Arrange. I'm going to send it to the back, and there you see that we have our positive space and our negative space. And on top of that, you know, if you did like 10 of these things and set them up and frame them side by side on the wall, and you did them in different variations, you know, you could have some really cool artwork that way, by the way. So maybe you'll do that with this project once we're done. All right, so we have our first maze that I created with sharp corners. So I also want us to make another page now, and this is where I'm going to show you guys how we round our corners with the pen tool. All right, so I wanted to do this a different way just so you guys can see all the options. If you only created your document with one page, but you want another one you do this. So if you're on your selection tool, you should see these tabs right here. If not, take your selection tool and just kind of click off the canvas in this blank area, and anyway you'll see document setup. When you click document setup, you can go here to this tab that says edit artboards, and from there this gives us options up here. This is our orientation for portrait and landscape, which we're doing this in landscape. And this little icon here is the add art as well. It says new artboard. So when you click this, it makes another artboard. And then to get back out of that, you would just hit your selection arrow and then to go back to our page that we draw on. And as in the last tutorial, we already set these guides up, so these horizontal guides are going all the way across. So we already have these guides set up, so I just need to make vertical guides. I'm going to do that really fast. Bye-bye, guy. Alright, so now we have our 1-inch guides on this page. And also from the last tutorial, if you remember, if you take your selection tool and we can select our spiral that we made here, or our maze, and I want to copy that with a Command C, or you can go up and hit edit copy. And if you remember in our last tutorial, we can paste this perfectly where this one was on this page. And remember, you have your selection arrow and you click on the artboard that you're wanting to paste on, and then you hit paste in place under edit. And that's going to make a perfect duplicate of this maze here. And now I want to show you how we can modify the corners and make curvatures to the shapes. So to start with, I want to zoom in here just so I can show you guys. I want to select those. You can see we have points here on each one of these that we've made. So if we go back to our pen tool, we're going to select this shape with our selection tool. But if we go back to our pen tool, and I'm going to start in the middle. And I'm going to start right here. If you hold, well, it's Option key on a Mac. Again, I can't remember what it is on Windows. You can put that one on the Googles and it'll tell you. But on my Mac, I'm using my Option key, and you can see it change to this arrow when I do that. So when you're on your point and you hit your Option key, you'll click and you'll drag, and don't let go yet. Just see how it feels and see how it works, and you can see exactly what that tool is doing, and that lets you curve that point, and you can see it gives you these 2 anchor points on each side. We're going to start off basic and just drag these out and kind of pick a curve that we like. And what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm just going to start working my way around, and I'm going to just kind of drag these out and change them however I want. And the further you drag it out, the more it's going to go. But I don't want you to go where it starts going past. You can see that on the right side. I don't want you to go that far with it. We want to keep these into a line shape. So I'm just going to go around with my Option key and just start softening these corners up a little bit. And you can change these widths to whatever you want. I want you guys to be creative and have fun with it. But each one of these sharp corners I want to change to curves. And I hope the audio is not getting bad. The fans are really spinning on this Mac, and if you hear something in the background, it's the fans on my computer. Sorry about this, guys. This computer is about to explode because it's so old. I'm waiting on my new one to come in. So I'm just going to make sure I click all my sharp corners, and I'm going to start changing them to curves. I'm just going to work my way back out, and you can see if you drag it one way, it brings it in, so, and it starts crossing over. So you'll feel all this when you start playing around with it. So Option key changes it to let me create these curves. And you can make these skinny or fat, however you want them to do. thing about art. It just makes you happy. Lets you have fun, forget about life. Keep going around here. I don't want this one to get like that, so I'm just gonna put it like that. So I'm just gonna kind of just start making these corners. And again, I'm just looking to see where I find one that I want to be curved. I just want to try to find all the ones that are sharp corners and change those. And that's just showing us how to use the pen tool. I know I'm kind of skipping around here, but I'm just trying to find all the sharp angles and change them. But when you guys get done with this, I do want all your corners to be rounded, even in here. So let's see, I think I'll just leave it like that. So I'm going to go around and check. There's another one I missed. Just going to kind of let that guy go about right there. Zoom back out. Now you can see we have our rounded corners for our maze. I'll call it the liquid maze. So anyway, you see the difference in those two guys. And again, you know, you guys think about this on a wall in your home or somewhere in a museum. If you had, you know, 20 of these hung repetitively in a gallery, you know, you could see you could really do some fun things with it, even though it's so simple. But if you put these in repetitions and you draw these in different variations, and you say you had 10 of them together as a group, it'd look really cool. So this project, I hope you guys had fun with this particular project. We're going to do one more after this, but this is how we show positive and negative space, and also how we use the pen tool, and how we can use the pen tool to modify sharp corners and soften edges and curves and things of that nature. So from there, guys, let's go to our one last drawing for this project, and we'll call it a day. All right, guys, see you back in a sec.